Whoa, what's going on? You already know what it is. It's your boy T Will. We back with another episode of the Hustle Sports Fantasy Podcast. This the basketball episode. And we're gonna recap week 8. Gonna get that prep ready for week 9. We're gonna go through the hustler pickups, you know what I'm saying? The in the zone sleeper pick, player spotlight, and our hustlers energy lock pick of the week. We also gonna do a fantasy shout out, for the Hustle Sports Fantasy Basketball League. And so we already know why we're here to prepare. You know what I mean? Put the grind in, put the work in, try to get a dub. You know what I mean? Before I get into it, follow us on X at Hustle Sportsnet. Also on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at the Hustle Sports Network. Let's go and get into the top performers list. Hey, first up, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. We already know what he is. He's an MVP, 60 fantasy points per game this week. He only played one game. Now, it was a weird week. A lot of players only had one game scheduled because of the NBA Cup. But, you know what I mean, he still showed out in the one performance. He had 28 points, 2 rebounds, 8 assists. You know what I mean? Like I said, MVP caliber season. He won an MVP last year. He really liked that. He really liked that. We all know that. I ain't got to convince y'all. Donovan Mitchell next up at the guard spot. 73 fantasy points in the game this week. Had 48, 4, and 4. You know what I mean? He been, to me, my opinion, he been top 3 at his position since day one he been in the league. We saw what he did that rookie year in Utah when he put OKC out. But hey, he been doing this for a minute. Keep trusting him. And then my honorable mention, you know what I mean? Shock guy. I think everybody know this guy good. But KPJ, Kevin Porter Jr., 55 fantasy points. You know, he had 18, 10, and 13 and 34 minutes a night in his one game this week. He got good value. You know what I mean? He might be a good buy low candidate if the Bucks decide to move on from Giannis, at the deadline. KPJ role might explode. At the forward position, LeBron James, former Laker teammates too. LeBron James and AD, they were the top 2 forwards this week. LeBron had a 55 fantasy point game, 19, 15 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 blocks. Crazy. Year 23, age 41. To be able to do that at this point in life is insane. Insane. AD, 24 and 14 reps, had 3 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks. That was against Brooklyn the other night. Led my Mavs to a win. You know what I mean? He was able to, dominate. LeBron was able to dominate. You know what I mean? They was the top 2 at the forward spot. Real quick, I ain't gonna lie. One thing that kind of intrigued me about AD, I wanted to touch on. I know the Luka AD trade still kind of been a hot topic up until they fired Nico. As a Mavs fan, we all know Luka should have been able to retire Mavs. You know what I mean? But as fans, we also don't run the organization. So you just gotta go roll with the punches. Whoever there, they playing hard, they balling, try to cheer them on. This AD trade, I ain't gonna lie, it kind of intrigued me with the vision that Nico had for the Mavs. I've been watching basketball for a few decades now, and to see this team, the way they built, especially if they all healthy, the vision intrigued me. They kind of built like an old school team, a dominant big, a dominant guard, great role players, great shooters, you know what I mean? A lot of playmakers. I like the vision. From what I see, I like the vision that he had. I just think it sucks that it had to cost us Luka. That's neither here nor there. AD dominated in week 8 of the 2025-2026 fantasy season. So, yeah, we're going to keep it pushing. Top center. This guy been a staple. Nikola Jokic. 82 fantasy points in the game. Boy had 36, 12, 8, 2 steals in the game. He really a fantasy cheat code. You know what I mean? I don't really have to spend a lot of time on him, but I will say he looked like one of them dudes that he going to be good to the day he called it just because of the way he played. You know what I mean? Not a lot of athleticism, but it's a lot of mental, a lot of smarts. So, yeah, Nikola Jokic is one of them ones. And then Evan Mobley, excuse me. Evan Mobley, a new face on the list, had 45 fantasy points in his one game this week, 23, 13, and 6. Strong numbers, strong leadership. You know what I mean? He's showing out. He doing his thing. He DPOY last year. He growing each year. You know what I mean? So that's a wrap on the top performers list. I had Evan Mobley, Nikola Jokic at the center spot, Bron, AD at the forward spot, and then had KPJ, had Shai and Donovan Mitchell. So, those are top performers. Y'all tap in the comments in the chat. Let me know who y'all top dogs was in week 8 for the NBA fantasy. So we're gonna keep it pushing to this league. Shout out. You know what I'm saying? Before we hit the pickups, we're gonna go and get into this league. Shout out. I want to shout out 2 managers. Salute to these 2 managers from the Hustle Sports Fantasy Basketball League, the manager of Brazy Boys and the manager of Beast Bullies. It's crazy. They both top 2 scorers in the league this week, and they in the matchup together. They playing each other. So I had to point them out because this is gonna be a nail biter right here. You know what I'm saying? It's right down to the wire. They made management moves, maxed out them matchup acquisitions. So salute to the management work. I love to see it. You know what I'm saying? Y'all keeping the league competitive. I respect the war. So yeah, that's the fantasy league. Shout out. Manager of Brazy Boys, manager of Beast Bullies. Hey, salute. So this next segment, you know what I'm saying? We getting into opportunity. You know what I mean? We ain't just buying hype. We looking for, dependability, repeatability, people who can help us get dubs. You already know what it is. You already know why we here. That's to get dubs. It ain't for nothing else. So if your roster need assists, need threes, you need blocks, you know what I mean? Don't chase the name, chase the role. Opportunity always beats reputation. So at the guard spot, I got Aaron Wiggins out of OKC, 16% rostered, 25 fantasy points a game. His minutes down a little bit, since he came back from a thigh injury in November 30th, you know what I'm saying? But he's still bringing the scoring and steals. He only got 2 games next week, though. So stream accordingly. But I do like Aaron Wiggins. You know what I mean? It's season-long stats. Support the ad, support the stream. Y'all look at him. Next up, my dog. Harrison Barnes for the Spurs, 17% rostered, 26 fantasy points, 13.5 points, 3 revs, 2 assists, 1 steal. Veteran glue guy, got 3 games in week 9. He a former Mav. You know what I mean? He always shown that he seemed like he a great teammate. You know what I'm saying? He a smart player. He just coming in and, get the job done. Hard worker, no complaints, go to work. Lunch pail, bring your lunch pail to work kind of guy. Yeah. So Harrison Barnes was my forward. My big Draymond Green. Now he is 58% rostered, but 42% still some availability in some of them ESPN leagues. Obviously, he with Golden State, 25 fantasy points, still producing. At this point in his career, he averaging 8, 6, and 6 on the year, 1 steal, 1 block. Draymond doing Draymond things. Now, again, he only got 2 games next week, but he a good streamer. You know what I'm saying? He a viable streamer. He had a 42-point fantasy game already this season. He still do what he do. So, yeah, I had Draymond at the big. Had Harrison Barnes at the 4. Now, Harrison Barnes do have 3 games next week. And then I had Aaron Wiggins at the guard spot from OKC. Aaron Wiggins had 2 games. Draymond had 2 games. Harrison Barnes has 3 games. Y'all tap in. Let me know who y'all like to stream in the comments on the chat. So, that's a wrap on the waiver wire scoop on the Hustlers pickup. So we're going to keep it moving to this player spotlight. This is a guy. We all like this guy. We all like his game, usage, minutes, matchups, production. He is straight cooking. 65 fantasy points in this game this last week. His last game he played. He had 40 and 9. I believe that was Monday against Phoenix. Boy had 74 against Sacramento a few weeks ago. That's fantasy points, 74 fantasy points. His floor is 25. That's fantasy goal. If you can pencil in 25 every night, you gonna get dubs. You are gonna get dubs. I like Anthony Edwards. He give us highlight plays. He play hard. He can score the ball. So if you was able to draft him, you was able to get him. Shout out to you. You was doing your thing. So yeah, that's it on my player spotlight. Here's my in the zone guy. My in the zone sleeper pick. I spoke about him earlier. KPJ. KPJ. I said this earlier. When we saw when I highlighted the 55 fantasy points from this week. You know what I mean? The 18, the 10, the 13 assists, triple double, type of game, playing 34 minutes. Like I said, his role could explode more if Giannis gets moved. He'll score, he'll shooter, he'll athlete, you know what I mean? If you're able to get him in trade talks right now before the breakout, while Giannis still out, while Giannis still on the Bucks, I think right now is a good time to try to see if you could kick a trade for KPJ. He might not be real under the radar. He might be. I mean, he's not really, he's on everybody's roster, but like I say, he looked like he got some breakout potential, especially with the Giannis rumors. So, we find value before the rest of the league see it. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I like KPJ. If you're able to secure him in a trade, that's something you definitely should look at. You know what I'm saying? As long as you ain't sacrificing or sabotaging your season. But I like KPJ. Y'all let me know in the comments. Let me know in the chat who y'all like at the end of zone sleeper pick. Who a nice trade target, nice buy low target, or just somebody who on the waiver wire. Anybody you like that's under the radar that ain't, people ain't really talking about them, tap in. Let me know what y'all think on it. So we're going to get to this Hustler's Energy. Lock pick of the week. This is who I stand, this is who I get. I lock the lock, and I'm throwing away the key on this guy. This, like I say, this ain't prediction, it's conviction. Jalen Johnson, he's a lock. That's who I'm locking the lock, and I'm throwing away the key on. He averaged 23, 10.5, and 8 assists on the season. He eighth at his position. Since Trae Young injury, Jalen, and carried Atlanta to the playoff level play. You know what I'm saying? He got them in playoff position. Atlanta, kind of always a fringe playoff team, usually in that play-in situation. But I think when Trae Young come back, him and Jalen Johnson really could do some damage. Him, Jalen Johnson, and KP. You know what I mean? So they could definitely make some noise out there in that East because Jalen just really like that. He averaging almost a triple-double, like I said. So he a dog. He a leader. He a bucket. And I'm locking him in, and I'm throwing away the key. So, yeah, like I say, I like Jalen Johnson for my Hustler's Energy lock pick of the week. So now we about to get into, a fantasy community debate. This is the last segment of the show. This is where we, close the show with a bold question, something I've seen on the internet or anything. This one hit home. This one personal for me. Is it time to sell high on Chet Holmgren, or is he the future of his position in fantasy? Now, the reason why I say this one personal, I drafted Chet in my basketball league. You know what I mean? And he had great production. Thankfully, I was able to secure a trade to get Karl-Anthony Towns for Chet. Now, at the time I traded Chet, it was really about a wash in the fantasy production. But I'm thankful I was able to get off Chet because OKC is just blowing everybody out. We ain't seen this since the 16 Warriors, where every night come fourth quarter, the starters resting. And then it gets to a point to where you kind of surprised when they even in a close game. So to see, what they doing out there in OKC, I think Chet's a great player. I think he good. He definitely produce anytime he out there. You know what I mean? But I think for this season, I think if you can sell on Chet, I think, if you can secure a nice little package to sell on Chet, you probably got a good shot to, better your situation because I think OKC they're just too good right now. You know what I mean? They're just too good right now. We've seen this before. A lot of starters get a lot of rest on teams like this. So, yeah, I'm not feeling Chet right now. Y'all let me know, though. Let me know what y'all think. DM me, tag me, hashtag Hustle Sports Fantasy Podcast. Drop it in the comments. Drop it in the chat. Let me know what y'all think about Chet or anybody. Who's somebody, that you feel that might be fading because they're a prisoner of a good situation, or just somebody who not, like what everybody think they are. You know what I mean? Different opinions help us grow. Help us be able to get to the next level. So, yeah, like I said, we always here to put in that work, Make sure y'all keeping that grind up. Make sure y'all doing the research, prepping. You know what I mean? Making moves, matching up, or maxing out your matchup acquisitions to put yourself in the best place to win. You already know. So that's a wrap on this one. Like I say, we here to get dubs. We here for the work. You sleep, you beat. Hey, that's what it is. I'm your boy T Will. Hey, I appreciate all the hustles out there. Y'all tap in.